Hi, I'm Will Glendinning. I'm a producer, writer, designer and director. And in this episode, episode 7, we're looking at the goods you need for all or part of a live event, exhibition or anything live. There are two things any live event or exhibition needs: goods and services. Goods are all the things and services are the talent, the resource or the expertise, which are people mainly. As we discussed in previous episodes, there are a whole range of reasons why traditional procurement doesn't work with live events and exhibitions, even if you think it is working. It typically creates the illusion of finding you the best value and solutions, and you're quite possibly wasting huge amounts of money or missing out on other ideas and creativity. I'll save repeating previous episodes though. There are just 6 procurement approaches that I've developed to get you anything you could possibly need, whether you're looking for the smallest event on earth, a small meeting for example, or the largest event, a mega event, an expo or multi-sport event for example, and everything in between. I've proven them client side and agency side on contracts ranging from about $5,000 through to contracts worth well in excess of $50 million. These 6 approaches are finding goods with a specification, goods without a specification, finding services and talent, finding a flexible turnkey solution, that's a combination of goods and services, a fixed turnkey solution, and finding a promoter. I'd also add I'm not offering financial, legal or safety advice here. I'm providing approaches that will find you the best value in solutions, here to enhance or support your existing efforts. So if you need professional advice in the official sense, be sure to seek it out. These approaches can be used for formal, complex procurement processes, perhaps with existing policies, guidelines and practices, informal procurement, or just verbal agreements. It's up to you how you use them. They are simply frameworks. And in this episode, we're looking at how to find or buy the goods you need, whether you know what you need or not. Before we get started, there's an important clarification we need to cover off, some common confusion which needs clarifying. Make sure you're clear on the difference between what a brief, scope and specification are. A specification is unambiguous detail, open to zero interpretation. A brief is a summary of what you're looking for, but it's open to interpretation and could be interpreted in a number of different ways. A scope is broader still, an overview, direction or list of requirements perhaps. For example, this is a specification, this is a brief, and this is a scope. This is not a specification, and this is not a specification. The reason this is important is that it doesn't matter whether you know what you need or not, but the approach you adopt will depend on whether you do or don't. You can only conduct parity checks if you're comparing like for like, with clear specifications. If you're comparing responses to briefs or to scopes, you need a different approach, and I've got an approach for each. The first approach is to find goods with a specification. You've got makes or model numbers, or you know your exact requirements and you know exactly what you need. There are 7 steps to this approach. First, specification. Specify the goods you need, when and where you need them, for what duration, and any other relevant requirements. Add any goods-specific guidance or clarifications necessary. Remember, this approach is for when you have a clear specification. If you don't have exact makes and model numbers or the exact requirements or specifications, use the next approach, finding goods without a specification. Add any specific guidance or clarifications necessary. For example, certifications for electrical equipment, rating or classification of security personnel, or any contractual requirements for a venue hire agreement, that sort of thing. It can also be helpful to specify what you're not looking for if this helps clarify any incorrect assumptions that could be made. Second, governance. Add any governance requirements if you need to or you want to. For example, health and safety checks, environmental checks, financial standing, sustainability management, quality assurance checks, or any other criteria important to you and or appropriate to the size and type of the live event. But be realistic. The more of this you add, the less interested some suppliers are going to be. So strike the right balance depending on contract size and what you're looking for. Third, distribution. Send your specification in whatever way works for you or your organisation to a relevant supplier, or suppliers if you want to compare prices for an identical specification, and be sure to offer to clarify any details if needed. Fourth, review. Assess the responses you receive on the quality and the value of the goods you're looking for. Look closely at any caveats, notes or exclusions, and conduct interviews or ask for clarifications if they're necessary. Fifth, references. Check references relevant to the goods you're looking for if you're not familiar with the suppliers who are responding, and perform any governance checks you deem necessary. 6, appointment. Agree the price or unit prices and confirm your requirements. And finally, 7th, management. Don't assume that once you've confirmed your requirements or ordered your goods, they will just turn up. Keep in close contact with your suppliers to check they have what they need and are fully informed of what you expect from them. Ideally, they will become deeply involved with the planning process. Keep up two-way liaison throughout the project. As we've looked at in previous episodes, events are about people. Collaboration and conversation are everything. Okay, secondly, we're looking at how to get the goods you need without a specification, where you've only got a brief or you don't know exactly what you need. And unless you're an expert in exactly what you're looking for, this is going to be most of the time. First, write a brief, detailing what types of goods you're looking for and the likely location, date, type and scale of event. If you don't know the details yet, estimate as much as possible and indicate that details may change. It's much easier for a supplier if they have at least some idea of the scope and scale of the event. Avoid using acronyms. Use plain language rather than any phrases or industry jargon. Unless you know exactly what you're talking about, jargon or trying to sound more knowledgeable won't lead you anywhere useful. Secondly, governance. As before, add any governance requirements if you need to or if you want to. Again though, keep the amount of checks and information required realistic and balanced. Third, distribution. Again, send your brief in whatever way works for you or your organisation to suppliers you believe can support you. Fourth, review. Assess the responses you receive on the quality and value of the goods you're looking for. Look closely at any caveats, notes or exclusions. These could end up costing you more than the entire quote. Conduct interviews or clarifications if they're necessary. You'll be working closely with this supplier as if they're one of your own team. You don't know what you're looking for exactly without a specification, so they're going to need to do some digging. Therefore, chemistry is important. If the responses come back using terminology you don't understand or that's different on each response, simply ask each supplier to use the same terminology. Be explicit. Say you're comparing responses and that's why you need comparable information. Be totally open with your suppliers. The less you share, the more you will lose. Fifth, references. Check references relevant to the goods you're looking for if you're not familiar with the suppliers who are responding. And again, perform any governance checks you deem necessary. Sixth, you need to check content and contextual experience. If you're looking for help from a supplier to guide the content or purpose of your event, then they will need relevant content experience. If you're looking for help delivering or facilitating your event, the supplier will need relevant contextual experience of events with a similar scale, complexity, budgets, types of location, and, if applicable, marketing and commercial activity. And as you don't have exact specifications, your supplier is likely to need relevant contextual experience to help you. You can't both be on a learning curve. That would be a disaster. Seventh, appointment. Appoint a supplier on the indicative value of their goods and how they feel to work with. Agree on unit costs of goods if possible, or a framework or milestones and payment terms if you're looking at manufacturing or similar. You can set hard budget limits at this stage too if you're working to a fixed budget or want to limit expenditure. But make this clear before appointing anyone and make sure you or someone with the relevant content and contextual experience assesses any notes, caveats or exclusions a supplier may have included. Finally, stage 8, management. Work with your supplier to develop a specification against the brief. Make sure you support them and confirm requirements once you've received their quotes as they evolve based on the terms, prices or framework you've agreed when you appointed them in the previous step. This exercise, the whole approach, gets you the expertise you need while making sure you're not getting ripped off as plans evolve and your event date approaches. If you don't have a specification, you're going to need to be working with your supplier collaboratively, which is exactly what this approach gives you. So those are the first two approaches, how to find or buy the goods you need with or without a specification. There's clearly only so much technical detail I can get into in a video. If you'd like more detail into how and why these approaches work and why others don't, you're free to have a read of my book, and the approaches are all summarised for each of you on the book's website. In the next episode, we're looking at finding talent and services, how to find the right expertise even if you don't know what you need exactly, or at all. Thanks for your time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.